Nobody,
Brotherhood in particular.
Nobody is disputing the fact that there is state terrorism in international relations. States have been sponsoring terrorists in one way or the other. But they do this discreetly in such a way that at the end of the day, no one is seen. And these countries normally hide under the principle of legitimate self-defense, that they have the instrument of war, that international law allows them to have that. But you see, at the end of the day, from this perspective, Qatar has been accused. Evidences were given in such a way that, well, they still remain controversial. But when 2, 3, 4, 5 countries are coming together to say, look, Qatar, what you are doing, we will not agree with you. I think that place, there's a justification for them. Terror, the use of terror, it can be for country A today. It cannot be used against country B tomorrow. So if they are crying out, I think there is legitimacy at that level.
So in other words, it will backfire. It could backfire in the end. And then there's a lot of hypocrisy going on because, I mean, either of these countries could be a target, as you said. One has to put a lot of thoughts related with the international community. Now, Kuwait is mediating in the crisis. They had a meeting on Saturday, attended by the British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson. On the surface, you can take Saudi Arabia's accusations. Kuwait is supporting the Muslim Brotherhood. And, you know, Al Jazeera is being used as a propaganda piece and all of that. But you think there's an underlying reason why Qatar is the target here, because they've talked about bullying. The Qatar Foreign Secretary said, you know, this is tantamount to bullying, and it is, you know, they're trying to stifle the government and take over their sovereignty.
You see, your question is always very interesting because it traces the nature of international politics. International politics is essentially politics of intrigues, politics of self-protection, to the detriment of the survival of the other. So you need to be, you know, quite fit to play, to be involved in it. There's no reason why anyone wouldn't expect that there must be ulterior motives. Now, when you take the Charter of the UN, it talks about the principle of non-intervention in the domestic affairs of other countries. Article 2, paragraph 7 of the Charter is very clear on this. But what do we mean by non-intervention in the domestic affairs? The domestic affairs of the Qatari government, the Qatari people, what is it all about? But the moment what obtains in a given country has the potential to directly affect negatively the interest of the neighbor or any distant neighbor, certainly they will want to come in. Nigeria even has the same defense policy. The defense doctrine of Nigeria is that anything that happens as far as Mali and Mauritania should be considered as happening in the immediate neighborhood. So you have to contain it. Don't allow it to come closer. So what is happening at the level of the UK and Kuwait, all those countries that are trying to mediate, it is simply to prevent any adverse impact on their own national interest in the country. So it begins at that level. So we must begin to look at the ulterior motives. You will not be in a position to know the exact immediate interest anyone is pursuing. But generally, we can always explain it in the long term to say, look, they have some vested interest there. Please, you see, there are two things people should not always quickly forget in international relations. On the one hand, everybody is preaching the sermon of peace, global peace and security. But the manufacturers of weapons are also targeting buyers. So when there is peace in an area, it is normal, it is expected that manufacturers of weapons will want to create trouble there so that there is market for their goods.
Products, yes.
So what the people seeking peace in Qatar are simply doing is well known. We do not want trouble now that has the potential to affect our interests. So let us prevent that.
The 29th African Union Summit opened in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, with Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe presenting a $1 million donation for the body in support of its self-sufficiency. Now, 60% of the AU's budget actually comes from foreign donors, including the European Union, the World Bank, and non-member countries. Then African leaders unanimously endorsed that Nigeria President Muhammadu Buhari would champion the annual theme for the AU for 2018, the theme being winning the fight against corruption, a sustainable path to Africa's transformation. This is in recognition of the Buhari administration's commitment and growing success in the fight against corruption in Nigeria and, of course, globally. President Muhammadu Buhari was represented at the summit by acting President Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Nigeria also assumed the leadership of the AU Peace and Security Council at the 31st Executive Council meeting. And this was after the country successfully brokered peace between Morocco and the Sahrawi Democratic Republic on the report of human rights abuses between the two countries. According to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Jeff Onyama, the invitation for Nigeria to mediate in the crisis with Morocco and SDR is the new confidence that the AU has in Nigeria and to call on her to play a bigger role in the organization. Morocco threatened to block the work of the Executive Council meeting of the AU because it could not arrive at an agreement on the report of an evaluation mission to the SDR until Nigeria intervened. Okay, I wanted to get your thoughts on the African Union Summit. Nigeria eventually elected into becoming the head of the AU Peace and Security Council. The Minister of Foreign Affairs says it means the AU is reposing a lot of confidence now on Nigeria. Do you think this shows we're gradually, regaining our leadership role on the continent?
Well, to an extent, that is one way of looking at it. But if you look at the situational reality on the ground, please, Nigeria was only elected chairman for the month of July. It's routine. It's a routine something like we have it at the United Nations Security Council. Now, when they start, you can start on the basis of alphabetical order, and you rotate. That reminds me of the case of Ivory Coast and Cote d'Ivoire. Now, at the UN, because on the basis of this routine arrangement, Ivory Coast doesn't like where the seat of his representative is located. He now argue that, look, I am Cote d'Ivoire, so you see to determine where I sit, not I. It's exactly the same thing at the level of the African Union. You rotate. Our name starts with N. And now it goes round. So if what to have...
So you wouldn't say this is a major achievement for
What is
us?
the big deal in it? It's routine. But if the foreign minister is arguing that, well, it's another way of looking at the restoration of our leadership role, he may be correct, only to the extent that he has not told us precisely what they considered and what the restoration of our leadership role is all about.